Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Welcome to the episode of the second season of Universo Labz, a Serie, your favorite record series. So, if you like, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell if Bishop Adir Macedo likes it of the video and you don't miss it. So let's get started.
Good afternoon. It's like starting our Labz universe. The series on record. It's great to get to know this new program. So let's get started.
These are absurd ways that people escaped from prison. A prisoner received a detailed map with escape routes from the prison. To hide it from the guards, he and his fellow inmates tattooed the parts of the map. When they needed to consult it, they assembled the pieces like a puzzle, helping several prisoners escape. These are children who made discoveries by accident. A girl was on vacation in Thailand when she noticed something strange on the beach. The tide was receding too quickly and there was foam on the sand. It turns out she had learned about tsunamis in school just 2 weeks earlier. But when she started to panic, her parents told her to stop being silly. The father decided to talk to the lifeguard just to calm his daughter down. It was at that moment that the lifeguard realized the girl was right and ordered everyone to evacuate. Thanks to her, that was the beach with the fewest casualties. They made the swords using the bones of their ancestors and animals mixed in the forge, believing that they made the blade stronger. And surprisingly, this actually worked. It turns out that the Vikings used an ancient iron, which caused the swords to break very easily. And after they started mixing the bones, they became much stronger. Centuries later, scientists discovered the reason. When the bones were heated, they fused with the sword's iron, forging a much stronger primitive steel. These are foods that were invented by accident. In the 20th century, an ice cream vendor sold all the tubs and had nowhere left to serve the customers. When he looked to the side, he saw another vendor selling waffles. He had the idea to roll the waffle up, and that's how the cone was born. In Ethiopia, a shepherd noticed strange behavior in his goats. After eating fruits from a bush, they became extremely agitated. He then took some fruits and brought them to a monk, who boiled them to make a drink, creating coffee. You are selling water bottles for $2 on the street, but your neighbor decided to set up a stand next to you and sell them for $1. All your customers start buying from him, but you need to start selling again. You could wait for him to take a break and destroy the stand, but you would end up in jail. You could also lower your prices to 90 cents, but they cost you 95, so you would lose money. You decide to buy all the bottles he sells for $1. Your neighbor closes the stand because he has no more bottles to sell, and you become rich. The biggest scam in history. This woman never laughed in her whole life. The best comedians in the world tried to make her laugh, but it was useless. In 1907, a New York theater offered $1,000 to whoever could make her laugh. For several months, thousands of people went to the theater to see if she would laugh, but nobody could. This lasted for many years, but everyone gave up until someone discovered the truth. The woman suffered from facial paralysis and could not laugh even if she wanted to. Everything had been a strategy by the theater to get the best comedians to perform there. Most valuable items inside prisons. First, instant ramen. In many prisons, ramen has become the official currency, worth more than money. This is because the canteen food is so bad that inmates use the noodles to trade. Next, clothing elastic. Since regular rubber bands are forbidden, elastic from pants or underwear can only be obtained from someone else and is highly valuable for organization. Next, postage stamps. Since cash is prohibited, even those with bills can't use them. Instead, inmates use stamps as money to buy tattoos and even place bets. A woman arrived at the border with a scooter and a bag tied to the back. The inspector stopped her right away and asked what was in the bag. She replied that it was just sand. He emptied the bag very suspicious, but there was nothing. The woman started passing by every day with the same bag. The inspector always searched it and it was always sand. This continued for a month until he gave up. Years later, he found the old lady and begged for the truth. He knew she was smuggling something, but he wanted to know what it was. She smiled and replied, "In the bag, it was just sand. The smuggling was the scooter." This is how you can ensure that your child eats healthy. When he turns 6 years old, you will give him industrial food. McDonald's, pizza, everything greasy, accompanied by a glass of milk. He will be happy, but what he doesn't know is that he is lactose intolerant. This way, shortly after eating, he will run to the bathroom and have explosive diarrhea. He will start to associate all this food with his stomach pain. But then, you will prepare healthy food with lactose-free milk and won't say anything. He will eat healthy, drink his normal milk, and will feel good. The red team was much better, and everyone knew the blue team was going to lose the game. But two students decided they were going to ensure a victory. They made fake t-shirts and IDs, then mapped out exactly where every rival fan would sit. On game day, the infiltrators handed out 2,000 posters. They told everyone that when they lifted the papers, it would form the phrase, "Go Red." When they gave the signal, thousands of fans held up the signs for the cameras. But the real phrase that formed was, "We are trash." They won the game 35-3, but some say the blue was the winner. This man lost his car, but you won't believe where it was found. A man parked his car and went to work as usual, but when he returned, the car was gone. He thought it had been stolen, so he went to the police station and filed a report, but nothing happened. The car never turned up. 20 years later, the police received a call from a construction crew. They were about to demolish a parking garage and said they had found an old car sitting in one of the spaces. When they arrived, they saw it was the missing car. People who became heroes by accident. A mailman noticed that the letters from a house were piling up more than usual. Since he knew that it was the home of an elderly lady, he decided to go in to see if everything was okay. When he entered the house, he discovered that the elderly woman had been trapped in the bathroom for 3 days, and she was still locked up. In Russia, a man was walking down the street when he noticed that a cat was meowing and refusing to move from in front of a bush. When he approached to investigate, he found a baby abandoned inside. Fortunately, he called the police, who took care of the situation. Worst way, students cheated on exams. A 17-year-old girl was in medical school and asked her mother, who was a doctor, to take the exam for her. She dressed in teenage clothes and heavy makeup to try to look younger. She managed to get into the room, but the proctor noticed and called the police. A student went to the school bathroom the day before the exam and hid several notes inside the ceiling tiles. During the exam, he asked to go to the bathroom 3 times in an hour. The proctor thought the student was feeling sick and went after him. When he entered the bathroom, he saw the student with his head stuck in the ceiling. Common objects that were banned in prison. First, dental floss. It was banned after a prisoner managed to saw through the bars of his cell. He left his cell, beat up the neighboring prisoner, and went back. Other prisoners made a rope out of dental floss, climbed down the window, and took a taxi to escape. Candy and lollipop. They seem harmless, but they were melted down and turned into sharp and dangerous weapons. Next, chewing gum. It has been used to make key molds and placed in locks to prevent guards from locking the cells. People who ate bizarre things by accident. In the United States, a man named Clarence was eating ice cream when he suddenly saw something strange in the tub. He thought it was some kind of nut, but when he chewed it, he realized it was a human finger. This finger belonged to a guy named Brandon, who had accidentally put his hand in the ice cream machine. In the Philippines, a woman ordered fried chicken. She tried to cut the chicken with all her strength, but couldn't. Then she started to... Have you ever noticed that lipstick has a shape very similar to a bullet? And there's actually a genius reason behind it. In the 20th century, during a war, a company used giant machines to produce bullets. But when the war ended, they stopped production and didn't know what to do with all those machines. That's when an engineer had a great idea. Until then, lipstick was sold in paper, and it was a huge mess. But he realized that the same mold was perfect for making metal tubes for makeup. If the world were divided between boys and girls, first, we would be separated right after birth, and a great wall would prevent our contact. On the girls' side, they would opt for organization and division of tasks to ensure survival. Meanwhile, on the boys' side, they would do violent and radical things, ignoring daily tasks. But it wouldn't be long before one of the boys got curious and climbed the wall to see what was on the other side. He would see how organized it is, but he would soon be captured. The girls would get curious and send one of them to see the boys' side. In the end, both would agree to destroy the wall, and it would return to what it is today. He put a Lego piece in his nose and it got stuck. Then he put another piece in the same nostril because they connected, and he thought it would be a smart way to get the first one out. But instead, both ended up getting stuck. His mother managed to take out the larger piece, not knowing that the smaller one remained deeply hidden. For 26 years, he suffered from congestion, asthma, and sleep apnea without knowing the reason. Until one day, while washing his nose in the shower, the Lego piece simply came out after 26 years. This was the dumbest idea a country has ever had. In the 17th century, England created the window tax. The logic was simple. Since rich people have large houses with many windows, and poor people have small houses, if they taxed the windows, it would only affect the rich. The problem is that at that time, there were many poor people living in large buildings. To avoid paying the tax, the owners had them bricked up, causing people to live in darkness and without ventilation. If you are swimming and a crocodile enters your pool, here's what you should do. First, go to the market and buy a loaf of bread and a sledgehammer. Head to the nearest park that has a river full of fish. Throw the bread into the river and the fish will come to eat. Make friends with one of them and keep it in your pocket. Now, take a cauldron and put the fish inside along with the sledgehammer. Mix it well and it will turn into a hammerhead shark. Ride it back to your pool. It will battle the crocodile and you will even win a leather boot. How to identify a fake friend. Make a small, insignificant mistake in front of your friends. The group's imposter will try to humiliate you in front of others. If you suspect a friend, ask them for a very simple favor. It is very likely that they will come up with a cheap excuse that would be easy to get around. On the other hand, if a friend laughs at you in front of people you don't know, they are just trying to gain social approval without caring about your feelings. Finally, if your friends make plans but always forget to invite you, don't ask for permission to go. Remember, it is better to be alone than in bad company. Foods that were invented by accident. Part 2. First, donuts. In the 17th century, a boy's mother wanted to make sweetbreads but was in a hurry. So, the center dough ended up being raw, and she decided to cut the middle out, and unintentionally, she ended up creating the donut. Next, condensed milk. 100 years ago, during a war, the scientists noticed that the milk the soldiers were drinking was spoiling very quickly due to the heat. So he developed a method to make the milk last longer, which the soldiers simply loved, and then it started being sold in markets. These are pranks that went horribly wrong. In 2001, a DJ in England thought it would be a good idea to prank the fans. He said at the show that he saw a ship resembling the Titanic in a place with a high cliff. So many people went there to see the ship, but so many people gathered that part of the cliff collapsed. Fortunately, no one was injured, but the DJ had serious problems. In 2003 in the United States, an employee wanted to prank his boss, saying that the store where he worked was being robbed. Before he could reveal it was just a joke, the boss called the police. Several police officers showed up and saw that it was a prank, and the employee ended up getting arrested. If you were immortal, first you would spend 1,000 years living various different lives, but it wouldn't take long for the government to suspect you, discover your secret. They would see you as a threat and try to eliminate you in various ways. They would throw you into an active volcano, but you would be able to swim. They would try to blow you up, but you would remain intact, until they decided to imprison you to rot at the bottom of the ocean. You would spend the millennia in darkness, until erosion freed you from a completely transformed world. How to get to the moon by car. First, go to the supermarket and buy a cardboard box. Go to your car and remove one of the wheels using a wrench. Take the cardboard box and place it in the spot of the wheel. This way, you will be able to roll with one tire less. Go to a hot spring and place the wheel you removed on top of a geyser. Get into the car quickly and stay still on top of it. When the pressure builds up to the maximum, the geyser will explode, sending you and your car to the moon. Two friends ended their relationships and decided to look for new girlfriends. The first one used the perfect man strategy. He put perfect photos on his profile and studied fashion and expensive restaurants. On every date, he was exactly what the other person wanted, molding his personality. The second one had a profile full of real photos, and his tastes were very specific and even a bit quirky. After a month, the first man was exhausted. He had been on over 8 dates but didn't connect with anyone, plus he ran out of money to go out. The second man had only 1 date, but he met someone who laughed at the same jokes and loved the same kind of music. These killers were accidentally released from prison, but you won't believe what they did next. One night, the guards of a prison in Sweden forgot to lock the cell of 3 inmates. Instead of escaping from prison, the 3 went straight to the kitchen and started making a chocolate cake together. When they finished, they made a little fort with a blanket and ate the cake while watching TV. A few hours later, the guards realized they were loose. They found the 3 calmly in the fort, with no intention of escaping. The prisoners returned to their cell and said they had the best night of their lives.
To review our program, simply log in. Playplus.com will now give you the Faro Hour. Hi everyone and see you next time.